Did you speak to U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance this weekend about putting that statement out with the U.K. and France against Israel expanding its military operations in Gaza? And was the U.S. supportive of you releasing this statement?
I advised the Vice President that we probably were going to say something. I didn't ask. It was a one-way conversation. I advised the Vice President of that. It wasn't a conversation. I informed him it wasn't anything more than that.
Did he give you a reaction?
I just said it wasn't a conversation. So.
Mark Carney trying to answer that question of whether that discussion came up. David Heurtel is standing by. Our feature course brought to you by Guaranteed Industries, serving Montrealers for more than 75 years for all your home comfort needs, including with the good folks at Canner Climate Control as well. 514-342-3400. So, David, first of all, thanks for being here this afternoon. And let me begin by asking that question. A couple of days ago, Canada, France, the United Kingdom, coming out with a statement for all intents and purposes condemning Israel. There have been sanctions apparently put in place in the UK. You would have thought that on a question like this, the U.S. might have been consulted. Mark Carney said it wasn't a conversation. He just let J.D. Vance know what Canada would be doing. What do you make of that?
Well, I make, first of all, just the hesitation that we just heard from the Prime Minister. That in and of itself is strange. You would think he would be ready with a complete answer and a structured statement right away. The hesitation just raises even more questions. And Canada's position, yes, it did come up a few days ago, but now with what happened in Washington, D.C. yesterday, when following the assassination of two Jews coming out of an event, and now we know very clearly that this was an act of direct, it was almost terrorism, domestic terrorism, but definitely targeted two Jews from a person claiming some political position having to do with Palestine. The idea that Mark Carney right now, since his election, last week we were talking about, the whole back and forth on budget, no budget, when there's a budget, economic statement, whatever. And now we're talking about, golden domes and positions on Israel. And this Prime Minister was elected. Issue 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, Aaron, as you very well know, was about the economy, was about helping Canadians dealing with affordability issues. We just got inflation numbers which were misleading because while the number globally was low, it's because of gas prices. But when you look at food prices and everything having to do with cost of living outside gas, housing, for example, rents, everything is still going up. We're still going through a very difficult time. And everything seems to be postponed. A 2-day retreat, no media. And the big news out of that is some sort of, general bland mandate letter, but no action. And next week we're going to have the King of England, coming in, giving a throne speech, but still no concrete measures, no 100 days, of moving. And it just feels like a false start. And this, especially with what happened last night in Washington, D.C., these two young Jews being gunned down, as a direct act of hate, you just feel like, hold on a second, this harkens back to what has happened here in Montreal, harkens back to what has happened across Canada, acts of anti-Semitism, and going back to these positions that actually hurt the Trudeau government. And so I don't understand, and it's very difficult to follow what Prime Minister Carney is trying to do here, and why call J.D. Vance? Why Why is the Prime Minister of Canada calling the Vice President of the United States and not the President of the United States?
Okay.
Anyways, it just feels that, again, it's off tone and it's off color.
What you said, that's really an interesting description. I was thinking, just as you said it, this idea of this being a false start for Mark Carney, right? You would have thought, given the whole run-up, and people were looking at him, statesman-like, prime ministerial, whatever, and then the last couple of days, that's sort of fallen by the wayside. At least that's the sense, and you obviously have the same sense, which is a bit strange.
Yeah, it's like he's spending political capital. It's not like, we're at the beginning of the administration, and so he's got a lot of political capital, and he can spend it. But the thing is that, we were kind of used to, with his leadership run and then the campaign and the win, and since then it's been just a lot of series of just these unforced errors that don't make any sense.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting way to put it. Look, again, you wonder, I want to get away from the whole Israel, Gaza, Palestine situation, but, even this government, I think people are starting to wonder, has that sort of reaction changed from the Justin Trudeau liberals to the Mark Carney liberals in terms of what's going on in the Middle East? And I'm not sure there's an answer to that.
I don't think there's an answer either. We don't have a clear statement. But again, this is getting away from the priorities. I mean, what's going on in the Middle East is important. What's going on in Ukraine is important. Canada's defense is important. But when you're talking about priorities, and we've gone through this, and poll after poll after poll, and Quebecers and Canadians and everybody living here are on the same page, Aaron, it's about cost of living. It's about the economy. That's where the anxiety is. That's where our focus is. And right now, the administration in Ottawa seems completely distracted by other issues and is not telling anybody what they're actually doing concretely to help people. And especially when you're saying, well, there's going to be a budget eventually, but a budget in the fall, that's 5-6 months away. And so what is Ottawa doing today to help Canadians today? Making life just a bit easier, and we're nowhere on this, especially here in Quebec, where July 1st is coming up. We're going to yet again, and you're going to be talking about this on your show. We're going to as closer we get to July 1st, about housing crises and people not being able to find rents, and here we go again. And where's Ottawa? Well, we're talking about golden domes and Israel and JD Vance, and a budget in 6 months. And next week it's going to be about King Charles. I mean, it's there's something
we've
off
lost
right
the
now.
focus, I think, to some
completely.
degree, right? Let me ask you one last thing. Speaking of, what's going to happen on Montreal, July 1st, et cetera, this is something we go through every year. What do you make of the decision, that Bill 104 decision by the provincial government to take a couple of those votes away from the city and give a little bit more oomph, maybe to the suburbs? I mean, Valerie Plante's obviously not happy. What do you think?
Well, what I think is, there's an election in 2026. If you're the CAQ, where are your votes coming from? They're not coming from Montreal, are they?
Yeah.
And so this is something that François Legault had promised back in 2018, and so this yet again is a slap in the face of Montreal and a slap in the face of the current Plante administration not being able to have Montreal respected in Quebec City, and the Legault government saying, okay, I'm prepping for the 26 elections. My key ridings are not in Montreal; they're in the North Shore and the South Shore, and in Laval, and that's where I need to make my moves and keep those mayors happy, and hoping that will create a dividend in 2026.
All right, we leave it at that. David, I thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.
You bet.